Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kendrick Bailey, the Life Doctor.
I'm Terrence Johnson, the life excavator.
And I'm Jeffrey Hart, the life champion.
All right, today we have another great topic. Every choice has an invoice. I repeat, every choice has an invoice. So, if you tune in to any of our shows previously, please share with 5 other people and join in on this great discussion today.
All right. The topic we're talking about today is every choice has an invoice. And so it came from a unlikely source this time. and
It's
it
all
came,
before.
yeah, so it came from Busta Rhymes. If you familiar with rap or anything like that, you know who he is. But I watched a podcast that had him on there. That features another rapper that does it. But he was having a conversation, and he said the topic that we're talking about today, and he said, every choice has an invoice. And when he said it, I was like, man, that's good. Let me write it down. And we were talking about prepping for the day. We kind of bounced it around, and so we thought that it would be a great topic for us to discuss today. So when you think about that, every choice has an invoice. Every choice has a payment. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's Busta Rhymes. Yeah. So uh everything that you do has some type of payment attached to it,
Yeah.
whether you feel like it's sufficient or not, and that's another piece to it. But you should evaluate the choices that you make, because if you're not happy or content with your life right now, maybe it's because the choices that you've been making haven't been uh lucrative ones. I guess that's the way to say it. So so you've been wanting you have $1 million dreams, and then you have, like maybe $100 worth of effort.
You got like 20-cent choices.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the way to transition into it is, why why do people make choices that sell themselves short?
Well, a lot of time people make decision or choices based off the information that they have at the time, or sometimes people make decisions and they don't have the life experience to inform them. And so when we think about every choice has an invoice, my first, thought process that came up was our decisions have a cost, or decisions have consequences. And sometimes the choices we make, we may not be ready for the decision or the cost of it. And so, like I said, we're ill informed. We don't have that life experience, and so those are two reasons why people make bad decisions, or why people aren't ready for the price of their decisions.
Okay.
And
No,
to kind
both
of
of
like Ken was saying, being ill informed, you may not know that there's a better options available. So the choices that's available to you, you can only choose out of what you see. So,
them.
um, so I guess you just have to become aware that there are, more options or more choices that's available, better choices, out there that you can choose from. So
Mhm.
I just think just
Yeah.
not knowing all of the options that you have available to you, and that's why you constantly pick the same choices over and over again.
No, that's good, Jeffrey. That's real good. We make ill-informed decisions because we don't have access to all the available choices, or we got limited resources. No, that's
Mhm.
good.
So to add to that, you think about an invoice. When you get a real detailed invoice, it has exactly what you get for each thing.
Yeah.
So what Jeff was saying, if you don't really know, or you're ill informed, then the things that will be on your invoice won't be correct.
Hmm.
So if if I think that I've done a great job, but I look on the invoice and then I only have 2 of the things that I did, then how will I get rewarded for that in full? And so I think for a lot of us, it's because we don't know our worth. That's why we send out things to people that we just allow them to give us whatever they want to give us instead
Yeah.
of knowing exactly what we worth.
So I'm gonna put the definition of invoice because we talking about it. So I gotta write. I gotta tell you. So an invoice is a list of goods sent or services provided with a statement of the sum due for these or a bill. So a list of goods sent or services provided with a statement of the sum due for these um, situations. And then I'm gonna look up the definition of choice and let people know what choice is. So an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities. So a choice is an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities. So a lot of time our choices that we make, like Jeffrey said, is because we got limited possibilities because it says two or more. But if we, walk in purpose or we step out on in our life experiences, we understand that we were shortchanged with the invoice that we received. Because the invoice it's an itemized list of what you purchased. But
Mm-hmm.
what we find out is that we were shortchanged on the things that we made or the decision that we made because when we got our itemized list, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
And then I guess another thing you had to look at too on the invoice is the price that you have to pay for your choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So look at it like that. Every choice that you make has a price. It may be a cheap price or it may be an expensive price, but you're gonna pay one way or the other.
Okay.
No, that's good. Oh, you had something, Kendrick?
No, I was going to jump into a question, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just about to ask all the people that's out there watching it, what are some decisions that you made that you found out you were shortchanged on after the fact? What were some decisions that you made that you found out that you were shortchanged on after looking at the invoice? So you didn't get everything you thought you were gonna get.
Okay. I got a angle for that. So what if you kind of have that situation happen because you've been conditioned to a pattern of sending out invoices to people that have insufficient funds. So in your mind, you always think that you won't get what you deserve because you had a pattern of that. So then it makes you less um it makes you not want to go forward as much as you think you should because you had a pattern of being devalued. But just like we've been talking about, it's more or less understanding where your value lies and be able to identify what your price really is. Because if you don't know your price, then why should people understand what your price is or even want to know what your price is? Because they'll take you at your word. So if you say on your invoice, our price is $2, they're not gonna say like, "Nah, you worth $100." They gonna give you that $2.
Yeah.
And so I think it not. So we're talking about in a literal sense, but I think we do it also in a figurative sense where we shortchange ourselves with with people or with places or spaces in our life that we feel that we're discounting ourselves just to kind of get stuff going instead of maximizing each opportunity.
No, that's good. So if you just joining us, the topic today is every choice has an invoice, and Terrence just shared a great example of our choices, and or every choice having an invoice, and sometimes things not matching up. And so definitely continue to share some situations or decisions that you've made in the invoice didn't necessarily have the itemized things that you bought. While we're going through this live, and continue to share with people if you think they're going to be interested in it. So, parents, go ahead and finish adding to the layers that you've already started twisting out.
Well, I like the comment that Renee just had and saying she didn't read the fine print. So if you think about it, and just with anything, just think about all of us had to put our car in the shop before. And we have an invoice saying this is what they did, this is how much labor cost, this is how much the parts cost, and all that kind of stuff. But then they might have some fine print at the very bottom that you have to read. Or it might be what part they put on the warranty for it. So sometimes on the invoice, we don't read the fine print of what are the terms and conditions. Because we might think that the service is rendered for a period of time when it's not. You might you're gonna get paid for a year, and you just getting paid for 30 days worth of work, but you didn't read the fine print. And so each one of us has things that we have to read or we have to explore more into. But if we don't know the knowledge and don't have the knowledge, then we will sometimes get in bad contracts with people.
Mm. Yeah, and so definitely before you enter into a contractual agreement, like Renee said, read the fine print, but you got to know what comes with that particular contractual agreement. There's gonna come some highs and some lows, but you're gonna learn from both. And so anytime you enter into a contract, you know, you're gonna look at, you're gonna win some things, but you're also gonna lose some things when you look at, that invoice at the end. Because some things that you were paying for, or some things that you were getting, but some things you're gonna learn that you wasn't expecting are gonna hit you out of the ordinary or hit you out of the blue. And so that's why every choice has an invoice, because our decisions have consequences, and our decisions, we have to learn that we have to take into account all considerations before we make a final move on what we decide to go with. And then after we purchase something, we can't have buyer's remorse. So I'll say it again. After we purchase something, we can't have buyer's remorse. What do you guys think buyer's remorse is?
Just what you said.
What is buyer's remorse? What is buyer's remorse?
Man, I made the choice, and now I'm second guessing it. I want to take it back to the store. I don't want it no more. Give me my money back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what,
Why do people have buyer's remorse?
Well, I think people have buyer's remorse because it's kind of, that always wanting the newest thing or something new. And so sometimes we devalue what we already have, searching out the new thing.
Yeah.
And once we get the new thing, we realize that the thing I had at the house worked better than this, and this new, and then it doesn't do what I thought it was gonna do.
Hey.
And so now, like, man, I'm frustrated with myself because I had the money to do it, but I could have used this money for something else. I just wanted something new.
He paint a perfect picture for y'all, because that's exactly what buyer's remorse is. When we think we need something and we find out that it was only a want. That's the true definition of buyer's remorse. In life, we always use the word need when it should be want. We always say we need the newest pair of shoes, or we need the latest car, we need the newest iPhone. And what after we get it, we find out that it has defects and it wasn't as good as the advertising. And so we have that buyer's remorse. And so that's what we have when we look at our invoice. We have buyer's remorse because it's showing us everything we got and we still didn't get what we paid for.
And I think the main thing with buyer's remorse, man, is, you want that feeling of having something new, or that feeling of being able to, get something. But after you get it and that new feeling wear off, then, like I said, you don't really want it no more. And then that's when you start like, maybe I could have done something different, with this, or, with this situation or whatever. So I just think that feeling, having that of getting something new, having that, that little rush or whatever, having the new shiny object, once the shine wear off, then, eh, I don't really want this no more. Kind of like kids after, the day after Christmas, man. They get their new toys and everything, and then come December 26th, they don't want to pick it up and play with it no more. And then, it's like, hey, man, come on.
Yeah. And I have a 16-year-old daughter who just turned 16 almost 2 weeks ago. And it was 10 days ago exactly. And one of the things her mom and I was telling her is, when your 16th birthday, you're gonna get a lot of things. It's a special thing. But when you go back and look at what you received on your birthday, if you aren't able to have an accountability of what you got, or you can't show anything tangible for what you got, then you're gonna have a lot of buyer's remorse, because it's a lot of stuff that you could have saved, but you chose, a decision to look good versus, making yourself financially comfortable. And so when you look back on it, you're gonna say, if I only had to do this over again, I would have put more money in my account versus making the decision to buy something that I'm never gonna wear again. And so every choice has an invoice. We don't see it on the front end because we're distracted by securing what we want, and we're distracted about what people are gonna see. And then when that day happens and you make that transaction, you didn't get what you bargained for. And so that's why, just because you have the best information at that time, you need to get more information from your surrounding circles to make sure that you can make an educated decision. Because if not, you're gonna continue to repeat that pattern of buyer's remorse, and you're not ever gonna choose what's best, because you'll always end up being distracted by your list of things that you don't have, or that you didn't recoup the investment that you invested in it.
And you know what? Just kind of, I ain't gonna go off the path or whatever, but it's kind of fitting that we have this topic today. Every choice has an invoice, because everybody know what they have to do tomorrow. So you got some choices that you need to make tomorrow. You know, it doesn't matter, who you support or whatever. Just go make a choice. May have buyer's remorse, may not. It just depends. But yeah, but just know also that, whatever choice you make, an invoice will come with it. And
Yeah, but I like that you mentioned it, because our post tomorrow is going to be similar. But so I like that you mentioned every choice has an invoice in regards to tomorrow, because there are going to be people that are going to take action, and then there are going to be people that not going to take action. So, their invoice is going to be blank, and that means they can't complain.
How? Say that again. Say it again. Say it again.
So the people that don't take any action tomorrow, their invoice is gonna be blank, and therefore they can't complain. And it's okay if they're comfortable with their invoice being blank, but they just got to remember that they don't have a right to complain because they chose to do whatever they decided to do.
Mhm. So I mean, you see, you really got what three choices tomorrow. You either choose between the two that's on there or do nothing. And like you said, you might have to live with whatever choice you decide to make. So no matter what you do, it's a choice. So you're gonna pay something either way.
So, like we said, if you just joined us, every choice has an invoice. So that means every decision you make has a cost. And are you willing to pay the cost for what you want? And then did you know, get a return on your investment for the money or the time that you invested into the situation? See, before we got on, you was about to hit it from a relationship standpoint.
Well, I'm gonna go. I can tie it together, but I wanted to add to what Jeff was saying before. And I was thinking, with us always having that tendency to want what's new, could it be that it's a void that we're trying to fill, and we're using things to fill a void that we only can fill? And so that makes us want to buy new things and buy new cars and go on vacation that we can't afford and do all these different things to feel something that only we can feel. And so what Kendra was saying, even with relationships with people, sometimes we are going into contractual obligations with people in relationships and not knowing what all the cost will be. But also, we don't know that as much energy and effort that we're putting in, they might not have the same capacity to return that to us.
Yeah.
So then that goes like what I was saying earlier, is that pattern. If you have a pattern of connecting with people that are insufficient, have insufficient funds, then that makes you not want to go out and seek those relationships if you don't understand or are not aware. But once you become aware, you know who you need to link up with or connect with, and then what your invoice need to look like. Because then when you enter into agreements with people, you can say like, okay, if this is what you want and this kind of where we're going, this was on the invoice and it's itemized of the expectations. So just like you have an invoice for services, you can have an invoice as far as what relationships and connections you have, as far as the expectations of what are you looking for, what are you bringing to the table, and then what's expected. Because sometimes we enter into you know relationships with people, and then just like what Kendrick said, it's blank. So if it's blank on the front end, then why get mad when things happen? Because you didn't establish anything on the front end. So whatever somebody gives or don't give, you was fine with it from the beginning. That's what you signed up for. So it's like if you wanted to be something different, you had an opportunity to say something at the beginning when negotiations were going on. But you didn't negotiate. So you just took everything at face value.
So basically, like our grandparents and our parents said, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for, and you know, if you don't invest in you and in the decisions that you make, then you get quick consequences, or you make hasty decisions, and then you're gonna get the benefit or the reward of a hasty decision. And so we can't look around and point the fingers at other people about the decisions and the choices that we make, because at the end of the day, we made them. No matter who coerced you into buying what you bought, who coerced you into giving your time up, you still had the final decision to give that time up and to push by or sin on whatever you did. And so at the end of the day, you got to look yourself in the mirror and understand that every choice has an invoice. Are you going to continue to, um, buy things that hold no value, or invest your time in things that don't make you grow, or allow yourself to entertain situations that take away from you and not pour into you? So every choice has an invoice. Is not just tied to money, it's tied to time, it's tied to where you spend your time and efforts. It's attached to your growth, your maturation process. And so when we look at all these things, we got to look at, if I spend 10 hours doing this, did I get 10 hours where I was learning something new and my life is more enriched afterwards? Or did I just waste 10 hours?
Mhm.
I can spend 10 hours playing video games. There ain't nothing wrong with playing video games, but I can spend 10 hours playing video games and I don't have anything to show for it, you know? Or I can spend 10 hours, on my personal growth and I can have something to show for it at the end. So again, for all the people that play video games out there, don't throw rocks at me because I'm saying that video games are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying every choice has an invoice. Where you invest your time is what will grow in your life.
Hey, speaking of video games, man, a lot of people out there now trying to make the choice between the PS5 or the new Xbox, man. So, hey, the choices are there. But but one question I wanted to ask, man, is like how can people go about, making better choices? What are some of the things that they can do to either have more choices, or what something that they can do to make better choices?
Hey, they need to be hot. If they trying to think about a PS5 and Xbox, they need to be hot.
Look, Kendrick anti-video games. You can tell he anti-video games. but to go into Jeffrey question, I think it goes into what Kendrick just said. I think if we create our own invoice for ourselves, we can then see how much investment we really putting into ourselves. So if you really want something bigger and better for your life, then I think it goes to what Kendra was saying, that evaluation piece, how you spending your time. And then is it spent on things that can then benefit you? Or if you are investing money into some, will that pay or give you some back in return? Because if you just, it's certain things that we want that, it might be, things that doesn't have return on investment. But if you have too many of those, then that's how you go into debt. And then what Renee was saying, that, going to debt for feelings, like that was a good statement. Like a lot of us are in debt to our feelings. And whenever you whenever you go into debt, if you wait too long to pay, you go into collection.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hit your credit score. So you think about our feelings in that way, then our score as far as our own abilities or our own well-being can be negatively impacted if we have so many things that are not paid.
Yeah.
in life.
No, that's good. That's real good. Going in debt on your feelings. Yeah, I like that. And then, you know, not taking the action to do things that we know we need to do sometimes creates a debt too. So every choice has an invoice. So the cost of inaction. So not doing something that you know you need to do for you. It's only, when you get that invoice, it's gonna be much more than what you bargained for. And it's gonna be much more. You're gonna be paying for stuff that had no benefit to your well-being. or your life. So don't have a junk food invoice where it doesn't promote any type of growth or stability, because you're gonna be you gonna get instability if you don't have stability. So the things that you feed your mind, your body, your heart, the things that you ingest, sometimes you're creating a negative balance when you get an invoice, because you accruing this debt and there's no way that you can pay it. So every choice has an invoice, but don't accrue debt that you will never be able to pay, because you're bringing in all this toxicity in your life, or toxic things that have no value.
Okay. Let me go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, man, yeah, you have to look at it, for everybody that's watching now, you are where you are in life right now based on the choices that you made in the past. And where you're gonna go in the future is based on the choices that you're gonna make in the present time. So, I guess that's why I was asking earlier, like, how can we make better choices? Because, you can look in the past and you can see, okay, yeah, I made this choice and I got this result, or I made this choice and I got this. Okay, so how can I learn from that to make better decisions going forward? So yeah, you just have to realize that you are where you are, and you're gonna be where you're gonna be based on the choices that you made.
Yeah. One thing I thought about while Kendra was talking, and it go with what Jeff was talking too. I think the choice that all of us made that we still paying on the invoice are our student loans. And
Lord,
at the time, we were not informed at all about the impact that was going to have on our life, and it's something that all of us have to deal with. And that definitely it didn't balance out. Like what we owe to what we make, it doesn't balance out, and so then it makes it a struggle to go forward when you have this balance. But you know, you know, we praying for loan forgiveness. for loan debt.
but hey man, hey, you gotta look at it though, man. The choice of getting that refund check at that time was a great decision, though, wasn't it?
That was
It's not a great decision today, but
that's how we survived though. That was the best choice that we could make at that point. Have something to eat and somewhere to stay. Because a lot of times our refund check pay for our apartments and somewhere to stay. So
But
but
they go back to the point that we were making earlier, that we make the best decision based off our experiences sometime, and based off of you know the
the
options
information
that
that we
present
have
to us.
present,
And so at that point in time, it seemed like the gold standard of options. But as you get more life experience, you know that was an inequity,
that
and
was not it. That was not it.
you actually lost instead of gaining.
Yeah.
But then we got to make that conscious effort to pay it back. But that's the decision that you won't ever be hoodwinked or bamboozled by again. If somebody attempt to offer you something like that, you gonna
Block
you gonna block
it.
it with the Heisman hands, and you're
That's
gonna
right.
say, although it looked good, it's the same as a payday loan. That's what I equate student loans to,
Yeah.
like a payday loan. It looks good at the moment, and it provides you with something in your pocket, but what you gonna pay back on the end gonna be 5 or 6 times what you got. And so in life, we gotta look at situations like that too. So relationships that we invest in all this time, we know it's a duck when we first see it, but we still entertain it, and then we get mad because it's a duck. Well, if you know you're playing with ducks and you get upset that you're playing with ducks, it ain't the duck fault. Don't be mad at the duck. Look yourself in the mirror and start to choose wisely and invest in yourself, and know that you deserve better. Don't get mad at the duck because it was only trained to do what it was supposed to do.
Look, while you were saying that, I don't know why I got the visual, like, the old Nintendo game Duck Hunt.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking about when you were saying. Oh,
Oh, and then the crazy thing about it, man, these jokers, they give you like 6 months before they send the invoice to you.
mhm.
Like, why? Why?
Who give you 6 months before they send the invoice, Jeff?
Student loan folk. You know, you
Oh,
get out of school, you graduate, and then they give you that little 6 months, I guess, to try to get your life together, whatever. And then they see the invoice, and then you stuck paying it for the next
you know
10,
what that's
20.
called, Jeffrey? You know what that's called? That's your grace period
Yeah,
before I slap you in the face with reality.
right,
Mhm.
right.
I get you distracted by everything okay, and then I hit you with a dose of reality. And
Hmm.
so every choice has an invoice, and there's millions of people that's paying the invoice of student loan. But it's millions of people that are struggling with, the invoice of not taking action based off, you know, dealing or processing some, emotional content they have, or dealing with a situation or cutting, things out of their life. And so they getting this huge invoice and they racking up debt and they know they need to cut, the dead weight, but they refuse to do so. So the cost of inaction allows us to continue to accrue the debt in our lives. So every choice has an invoice. We either pay it and go ahead and be over with it, or we continue to let the debt or the charges pile up until we don't have the time or the funds to pay for it.
This one thing I was thinking about while you were talking. How many people have we uh stayed connected to past that grace period?
Yeah. Too many.
So how many people in our lives have we stayed connected to past the grace period?
Too many.
So we know like in that grace period, just like okay, it's something I might let slide a little bit and all that kind of stuff, and then past the grace period, now you got the full everything in the crew now. So you got the full responsibility of everything that come with that. And I think that's 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 a pattern that a lot of us have where we feel like after the grace period, things may change or evolve, and they may not. But we don't use the grace period at the evaluation stage like it should be, and we take it as just the beginning phase of it. But it's really the phase to see. It's almost like you do like a 7-day trial, you sign up for something or whatever, you get a month free. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that time to see if you really want it. And you're like, okay, if you don't want it, then you can back out and then it won't hit your account. But some of us we just start the monthly fee every month without even assessing where the impact of it.
No, that's good.
What you gonna say, Jeff?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, I was just sitting there thinking, like, we're talking about, paying the invoice of the choices that we make. But how
Mhm.
many of us are paying invoices for the choices of others? And
Well, hold on. Say that again. Say that again. Say it
yeah,
again.
how many of us are paying invoices for the choices of others? And I kind of the reason I thought about that because like in my last job, whatever, I saw a lot of kids, parents, whatever, paying invoices based on the choices that their parents made.
Yeah.
And so that's something that, that they would have to, be stuck with, for a long time and to be things that they would have to pay for, going forward, just based off, the choices of the adults, whatever that's in their lives. And so that's why, I kind of mentioned earlier, we have to be, cognizant of the choices that we make now, because like I said, I mean, it not only affects us, but it affects everybody around us also. And so the choices that we make, you know, people around us, you know, gonna chip in on that invoice based on the things that we do. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there's
But,
a lot of people, you know, out there now that's paying invoices, you
but
know, on things that they had no part in.
yeah, I'm gonna answer that question. If you got family, friends, kids, co-workers, you have paid the invoice for other people. You know, you have paid the invoice for other people because some of the charges that other people accrued, they gave it to you because you could handle it or you always were able to handle it. And so it was easier to give it to you because your posture was presented the right way to take care of it. Now, what we learn as we get older or as we get more wisdom is that everybody gotta, stand or, deal with what they bring to the table. And so instead of taking on unnecessary stuff, we shift it back to the people that brought it to us. So I say it again. Instead of taking ownership of other people's stuff and paying the price, we shift it back to the people that bring it to us. And we don't always learn that. You know, some people are just now learning it in their 60s. Some people are just now learning it in their 50s. People are just now learning it in their 70s. So every choice has an invoice. And Jeffrey brought up the great question, what if we paying somebody else invoice? Then it's time to shift that responsibility and ownership back to the person that brought it to you.
Mhm. Yeah. So we need another envelope when we get the invoice, and we need a return to send the envelope and send it back.
Yep. Turn the sender.
Mhm.
Because like I say, a lot of people bring their, invoices to you because
Mhm.
they know when they charge it, they couldn't pay for it. But they knew that you looked like you always was able to handle it. So they just shifted to you. And sometimes you took care of it. And because you taught them that you would take care of it, they continue to shift it to you. And the only way that changes if you cut it off and shift it back to them. So as soon as they give it to you, you say abracadabra, here it go back to you.
or a lot of us have been ATMs for everybody else, and so sometimes we got to change the code so they can't have access.
Yeah. Some Hey, see now you taking it to another place. Sometimes we need to let them put their own card in the ATM machine and see what they got as a balance. And when it
Yeah.
says zero, they just need to sit with it. Don't bail. You can't bail people out. So every choice has an invoice. Maybe it was meant for them to accrue that invoice so they can choose to change or they make the conscious decision to stay the same. Because ain't nothing like seeing reality. If I get this huge invoice, next time after I pay it, the next time I'm gonna make the right decision and I'm not gonna accrue or charge as much as I charge because one, I know I don't need it, and two, after I spent it, it's gone.
Uh-huh.
And in life, you don't get too many opportunities to get your money back after you have buyer's remorse. Ain't no way to get your time back. Every now and then you can get your money back after you have buyer's remorse.
Uh-huh.
You gotta have some salesmanship in you in order to get it back though.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be.
Yep.
And
Some
so
rules.
even so with that, if you don't make a deposit, then you can't expect a return.
Yep. Say that again. One more time for the people in the back.
if you don't make a deposit, you can't expect a return. And so the areas in your life that you feel that are insufficient, it may be because you haven't been depositing things in those areas.
Yeah. And so now I gotta piggyback off what you said. For everybody that got kids out there that they want to make their kids' life much better than theirs, what we forget to teach our kids is every choice has an invoice. And so sometimes you need to say it loud from the back of the room. You need to say it from the top of the room to the front of the room. You need to whisper in their ear. Every choice has an invoice because what be a part of, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences of that. So it's no lesson. Like I said, a lot of times we want to, make our lives better for our kids, but in turn, we take on their debt and we pay their invoice. Now we gotta, help everybody understand that it's important that they pay their own invoice and they understand what it feels like to have to pay a huge balance.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Because I was thinking, even if you pay in installments or pay in small amounts, it still won't do as much to the balance.
Mm.
So you have to find ways to then build up enough to then pay that down in a quicker manner because you don't want the interest to hit it.
Yeah,
And
like yeah, what do you do when the interest is more than the minimum payment that you pay?
uh-huh.
That
And
means they're gonna have to learn to sacrifice their wants for needs. But ain't no better way to teach people what's the difference between a need and a want. And they have a huge invoice and they ain't got the funds to pay it.
yeah, because that's how you become the working poor. That's the definition of it. When whatever you work for and whatever you bring home, it then goes right back out the door because you got too much debt.
Mhm.
And at the same way with people, some of us we so far in debt with other people, and not just financially, but just in things that sometimes you can sometimes you can promise yourself into debt of what you promise what you're gonna do for people. And then when you say you promise something, and then when they come to collect that thing or take you up on that, then you start to accrue debt on that too. So sometimes you need to close your mouth in what you gonna do for people until you have the resource to do it. Don't just promise stuff that you can't fulfill.
And then I take it back to the younger me. Younger Kendrick paid huge invoices for the type of decisions that he made. And what I don't want to do anymore is pay those significant invoices, whether it's time, money, emotional response, or whatever. As you get older, hopefully you're getting wiser. And the wise person learns from their mistakes. The wise person understands that every action has a reaction and every choice has a consequence. And so make your decisions wisely. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you won't make mistakes. It just means that if you do make a mistake, you own up to it and you take whatever consequences that comes with it. Um, every choice has an invoice, and don't be afraid of the balance that your invoice says if you can own up to it. The
Yeah.
only people that are afraid of the balance are the ones that can't own up to it. If you made it, be responsible for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And wisdom doesn't necessarily come from age either.
Now, it's a lot of old people that's not wise.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you got young dummies and you got old fools.
Hey, you said a mouthful, but I didn't say that. Terrence said that. So,
Oh man,
no,
but
definitely a great discussion. Every choice has an invoice. We definitely thank everybody for all the comments. It's been an outpouring of comments. Um, and we thoroughly enjoyed the dialogue. And like I said, if you got something from this, share it with 5 people. And then, as I close out my part, because Terrence and Jeffrey gonna have a piece they close out. As I close out my part, just remember, You know that your decisions have consequences. Be able to handle the decisions that you make, whether they impact your life in a positive or negative way.
Hey,
Whether they
hey,
impact your life in a negative way.
nah, you said it right. You said it right. Yeah.
I had a Freudian slip.
Woo!
I didn't mean impact wife. I mean impact life.
Yeah. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing.
Oh, man. But I guess my closing point, man, is kind of like I mentioned earlier. Just kind of look back, look at where you are right now, and just look at the choices that you made to get to this point, and then kind of learn from those choices, so that way, choices that you make going forward, you could be, have a better future, basically. So, like I said, just know there's a price paid with everything that you do, every choice that you make. So you just have to accept it and just move forward and then try your best to make the best, choices that you can with the information that you have at this present time. So if you want to make better choices or have more choices, more options, then you have to do the things, to get more options. So kind of like going back to the video game, hey, some things you got to do to get more lives in the game to keep going. So there it is.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is when you learn better, you do better. So the choice we made in the past because we didn't know better, but now we know better, so we do better now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to close it out.
All right. So thank y'all for joining in today. We will see y'all again from the Take the Journey page on Thursday at 12 with another great discussion and a great topic. So as always, be blessed and share your love with someone today and the next day and the next day until it becomes a ripple effect.
Go Bo.